Welcome, everyone, to today's conversation about the R.A.I.C.E.S program cohort. R.A.I.C.E.S stands for Reimagining Arts in Community Education Spaces. But before we start, I want to start to beginning with acknowledging that we are on the unceded ancestral homelands of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As indigenous stewards of this land and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. As guests, we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. With that, we're really excited to host today and be in conversation with the four participating organizations of the R.A.I.C.E.S Fellowship. It has been an honor to work with these fierce mujeres leaders and imaginative spirits in community. I'm going to read their bio and we can then go into sort of the details of the fellowship. I'll start by reminding folks that the fellowship intent is to hire four individual artists at 30 hours per week to be hosted in each of the participating organizations. The goal is to hire an individual that could develop a body of work that is informed by a community process and that has a final presentation that will be hosted in these organizations, as well as having an educational workshop that will be accessible to community. That is indeed the fellowship, and we'll go into details more about what it means for each organization and participants. So I'll start by introducing all of my colleagues here. First person is Rosa de Anda. She is a director of the Marigold Project. Rosa is a writer and visual artist. She is the founder and director of the San Francisco Day of the Dead Festival of Altars. She created it in 1991 while acting as education director at the Mission Cultural Center. The Day of the Dead is a cultural community co-creation that fosters sustainable human and environmental relationships by honoring our ancestors and the circle of life and death. She strongly believes art crosses all boundaries and is the most important documentation of our human experience. Rosa considers the words tolerance, minority, and people of color inappropriate and substandard to describe most of the world's population with proven talent, intellectual brilliance, theological dominance, inventiveness in the arts, science, and athletic prowess. She received her BFA from UC Berkeley, an MFA in sculpture from the School of the Chicago Art Institute, an MFA in creative writing from the California College of the Arts, and an MFA in poetry at the University of San Francisco, where she was also a distinguished Lawrence Ferlinghetti Poetry Fellow. Welcome, Rosa. Uh,
Thank you.
following, following, we have Doctora Martina Ayala. She is the executive director of the Mission Cultural Center for Latino Arts. Dr. Ayala is a visionary leader, founder, and pioneer of innovative programs in schools, consultant, and management executive of 35 years, working for different institutions of higher education and social service nonprofits, serving intergenerational and multicultural communities. An award winning filmmaker, recognized educator, and community leader, she has curated art exhibits in San Francisco, Los Angeles, focusing on Day of the Dead, gentrification, curanderismo, and women. Dr. Ayala has produced numerous concerts and cultural events through Martina La Latina Productions throughout the Bay Area, Los Angeles, and Mexico. She is an academic scholar and activist that holds a doctorate in international and multicultural education from the University of San Francisco. Her life's work has focused on Chicano film, spirituality, literacy through the arts, and issues related to education, inclusion, social justice, immigrants, people of color, family strengthening, resilience, and trauma informed care. Dr. Ayala is an inspirational and transformative leader and coach. Her work supports those who are seeking to discover their life's purpose and personal truth. She is committed to creating supportive and equitable spaces for artists and providing access to quality cultural art programming for families in San Francisco. Bienvenida, doctora Ayala.
Gracias.
And also joining us is Lucia Obregon, the director of the San Francisco Latino Parity and Equity Coalition, also known as for short LPEC, SFLPEC. Lucia is a Guatemalan-born queer artist and community organizer who currently resides in the Ramaytush Ohlone territory, the area and land that we know today as San Francisco, California. In October of 2022, Lucia was named the new director of the San Francisco Latino Parity and Equity Coalition, which is a data-driven, citywide coalition of more than 22 Latinx-led and Latinx-serving community-based agencies. The coalition's goal is to be able to influence the equitable, accelerated, and sustained distribution of services and resources to meet the urgent and long-term response and recovery needs of the Latinx community within San Francisco targeted neighborhoods. As part of her personal advocacy, Lucia is an immigrant rights commissioner for the city and county of San Francisco. She volunteers with Building Community Collective, where she assists with organizing events, actions related to working class education, Black liberation, Indigenous sovereignty. Lucia is an artist and one of the lead singers of Inti Bate. Lucia uses her music to speak to the hardships of the human experience in a time of heightened political oppression, health crisis, and spiritual awakening. Both her art and activism centers on creating spaces of healing, collaboration, and exploration, personal and social, providing communities with opportunities to explore the intersections and complexities between art, identity, and social justice. Bienvenida, Lucia. And we move on to Fatima Ramirez, Executive Director of Acción Latina. Fatima began her work at Acción Latina as a member of the Juan R. Fuentes Gallery Curatorial Committee, and she joined the staff as a cultural arts manager of the gallery in 2019. She held roles as deputy and interim executive director before officially becoming the executive director in 2021. She studied journalism and Latin American studies at the University of San Francisco and also earned a master's in family and community education and resilience from Columbia University. Somebody's phone is ringing. Apologies. She is passionate about the intersection of art and media that bring families and multiple generations into conversation with each other. Fatima was raised in the Mission District and is committed to bilingual storytelling that uplifts Latinx communities in San Francisco and beyond through community media, cultural arts, and civic engagement. Welcome, Fatima.
Hola a todos.
Last, I'll introduce myself and say a little bit about who I am. My name is Ani Rivera. I'm the Executive Director of Galería de la Raza. I am from the borderlands of San Diego, Tijuana, and have lived in the Bay Area since 1998. From the onset, my work has centered in supporting children, youth, and families, which led me to the community development sector. As in my capacity as executive director at Galeria, my work explores the intersections of community development, art, and social practice, with the focus on creating equitable and sustainable models whose practices center the understanding of how power and access and resources can be used in the service of justice. I am a Chicana feminist. I believe in the cultivation of sisterhood and next generation leaders. As such, I serve as the board treasurer for the Chicana Latina Foundation, whose mission is to empower Chicanas and Latinas in higher education through scholarship and leadership training. And in April of 2022, Mayor London Breed appointed me as a commissioner to the Department on the Status of Women. And so I'm so honored to be in conversation in this sisterhood for this work that we have been talking about, and not just talking about, but really advocating hand in hand with all the Latinx leaders and trying to uplift art, understanding that I think everyone in this screen believes it's a human right, and it's time that we make sure that we invest in it if we are to change society and build a culture of healing. So welcome all. It's so great to see you. We are going to move into having a conversation and understanding each of the organizations. So why don't we start with Rosa de Anda and talk to us. We're going to talk about the organizations and what are the goals of your organization through this fellowship?
This fellowship is a dream come true. I think that we needed this fellowship to grow as a community, to grow as an artistic community. And through this fellowship, I hope that the fellow will be able to assess the time period in which we are living and apply their talent and their goals in working with our organization to uplifting us as a group and uplifting us as a horde, a cohort of artists, and in conversation with each and every organization, and to be in the pulse of what the community needs to talk about or discuss through the visual language of art. And I'm really, really hoping that it happens. We don't know what will happen because it's an experiment. What we're doing is really new and exciting. So through their areas of expertise and through their involvement with community and through their listening and through their conversations, they will discover what the community needs are. And I hope that that gets to be played out. That is what we see in the upcoming year. It'll be an exciting year. It'll change us. It will definitely change us. It will definitely change the language of our art. And we are committed to keeping our traditions, our San Francisco traditions, but we are also committed into building a new language that speaks directly to our needs.
Wonderful, Rosa. Wonderful. That's great, Rosa. Thank you so much for sharing that your goals and your vision of this fellowship. I'm going to invite Martina to take us to the corner of or Mission Street between 24th and 25th and give us your goals for the fellowship.
The goals for this fellowship will be housed at Mission Cultural Center for Latino Arts. But we are a multidisciplinary arts organization. But this particular fellow will be working in our historic Misión Gráfica, our screen printing studio, which is which is a historical studio that has been known for being politically active, artistically independent, and being a community screen printing workshop that engages in social change. So this is art for the people. And what we're hoping is that this artist can develop their own body of work that speaks to current social causes that need to be uplifted in our community. But we also want this artist to share their knowledge and engage community and support community in having their voices heard and reflected in print. So this is a fellowship specifically geared towards screen printing, art for social change, community art making.
That's wonderful. That's great. And so it really will require, I think that one of the questions that was already submitted is that we expect our fellows to be housed at our organizations. And in your case, they get to live at Misión Gráfica, which is exciting. If you've ever spent time at Misión Gráfica, lots of really important work has come out of there, historical work. So this is really exciting to be able to have the opportunity to bring somebody in. Well, now we go all the way back to 24th Street between Alabama and Harrison. And we want to welcome to hear from Fatima Ramirez at Acción Latina. Fatima, tell us about your goals.
Hi, everybody. So, correct. Acción Latina is on 24th in Alabama, and we're an arts and media nonprofit based here in San Francisco's Latino Cultural District. And as you're seeing, our mission is to promote cultural arts, community media, and civic engagement as a way of building healthy and empowered Latino communities. We're also the proud publisher of El Tecolote newspaper, which is the longest running consecutively published bilingual newspaper in California. And having served the community for over 5 decades now, that means we have an archive that also spans 5 decades with a lot of rich history as to the many victories, challenges, movimientos documented through that archive. And what I'm looking for is somebody who is going to immerse themselves in those archives to intersect with the program that we produce in community, Paseo Artístico, which is a recurring, free, and family-friendly community curated arts walk that we host along 24th Street. And particularly during this year of the fellowship, we'll be asking the fellow to focus on El Tecolote's archive, specifically of the decade of the 90s, so that they are able to create a body of work that is then showcased at our Paseo Artístico in October of 2023. We're open to all disciplines because Paseo Artístico by nature is a very multidisciplinary program. Really what we're looking for is somebody who is going to dive into these intersections of arts and media, combining the archive with an art activation that gets presented at that paseo in October.
Great. So make sure that everyone also that's watching, you already know that October, we're all going to be at that paseo to celebrate the accomplishment of this fellow. So that's exciting. Well, thank you so much. I think just as background, Fatima and Acción have a direct, like, this is what it's going to look like for the final public presentation. That's exciting. It's going to also inform and influence us. I think a lot of our projects are in this sort of development, right? We're because we're leaving the freedom for the artists and also to see what works with our organization. So just stay tuned. When we announce the fellowship, we will be announcing what that final form will look like. But thank you for being so focused, Fatima. That's great. And I'll talk a little bit about Galería de la Raza's fellow. As many folks know, Galería de la Raza has been around for over 50 plus years, and our work is rooted in community conversation, in a creative placekeeping practice. And our goal in this whole transition that we've been going through, we are celebrating coming back to also be on 24th and Folsom, which is where we will have Studio 24 activated. And the goal is to provide dedicated space for an artist to propose a project. For us, the intersections of advocacy and policy are really important when we look at whatever medium the artist decides, but that it's really informed by the different work that we've engaged in the last, seriously for the last 5 years since our displacement, and also to ground us back into this community and to activate the education annex. And so the goal is we're really open. I think what we really want to know is that it's somebody that wants to explore advocacy and policy through their art form and through a conversation. Any medium is really welcomed. We've historically, I've always had mixed media, multimedia, exhibitions. And so our goal would be to go through an exploration of a project with an artist that is really wanting to push on the policy and advocacy piece. So that is sort of the goal from our perspective. And to also hold space, to hold space in the new Studio 24 Education Annex, and be intentional about understanding the history and the wins that we've had. Although there's been hard challenges, these are wins that we're walking into, all of us collectively. So that is the goal. So we move on. We want to invite now really to have a conversation with all of us, but also center how the origins of R.A.I.C.E.S came to be. As I mentioned earlier, the title is the Reimagining Art in Community Education Spaces, R.A.I.C.E.S. And R.A.I.C.E.S for all of us is very connected to the history of where we're located, to the also broader impact that we've had nationally and globally as a movement. And so we want to make sure that we honor ritual, tradition, memory, and also new aesthetic possibilities, and understanding that we are like an ecosystem as organizations. We're making rings with every accomplishment. We add a little ring to our tree trunks. And so that was what we've been talking about. As once we knew we had the funding, we said, okay, we need to invest in these organizations who have steadily uplifted the art sector, and yet the investment in the infrastructure continues to be a challenge. And as we saw with COVID, we've seen over and over how artists were deeply impacted, and there was no type of no funds really for artists to continue to do their work, and yet we were so dependent on art and culture to survive and give us healing during that terrible time. And so the idea came about all of us feeling this pressure. We met as an art and culture cohort. We were sharing the stories of hearing from artists, trying to figure out ways to give them cash assistance. And we said, we got to start moving into recovery. What do these artists need? They need jobs. Unapologetically, they need a job to do their work. They do it all the time. They got to be paid. And so that was the big call that we did. And when we were talking to SFLPIC, we are all members. And so now I'm going to have our director of SFLPIC give us a little bit more of that. But I wanted to give that brief context. And Lucia, take it away. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you for that. And yeah, as you mentioned, all of these organizations are SFLPIC members. And really, I think an important piece to recognize about this wonderful opportunity is that this opportunity and these funds were advocated for. They were not given to us, right? They were advocated, and it took years of advocacy done by these 4 organizations to get to this opportunity. We know, and as Ani mentioned, that the arts sector is not seen as a priority, especially in these times of, economic turmoil and just budget deficits. But yet we know that in our community, in the Latino community in the San Francisco area, art is so crucial and is so important to our well-being, beyond just murals and the beautification of our city. Really, art is recognized as medicine for our mind, our heart, our body, and soul. And so with this in mind, I think that I commend these organizations, and with Galería de la Raza leading this effort of constantly advocating for the arts sector to be looked at beyond just this concept of art. And within that equity piece, we want the art sector to be included far in the budget, far more than just the art commissions, right? We want to advocate the art sector to be included in all of the departments and be an intersection and be seen as a very crucial piece to the well-being of our ecosystem. And so we want art to be included in workforce, housing, small business, and see that investment in our artists, musicians, performers, and see a true investment from the city. And so this is just the beginning of the advocacy. So it's very exciting, and I'm very happy to be able to see this project take off. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Lucia. I think that I would like to have definitely also some of the members that have been senior members of SFLPIC even shared their own personal experience and trajectory of how we've arrived to this successful launch of this initiative. Particularly when I call in Rosa, I think that you have really seen the growth of the arts and culture advocacy. And I would like to hear from your perspective, because there's been many ideas, but, you've seen it kind of evolve and change, and then, people come and go. And so tell me what your experience has been.
It has been interesting and exciting. I remember when it was just me and Lucia and one other person in this group. Mm-hmm. So it has been absolutely amazing to see these strong women hop in to this discussion and activism and getting it done. I mean, we got it done. We have this fellowship, and this fellowship is a prayer answered. And it is, for us, it means that we get to have a modern language developed through this artist that will be showcased. Like Acción Latina, we also have a date for our show, which will be November 2nd for the Day of the Dead for our Altar Festival, we will showcase our artists then. And this is a long history. We've all had long histories with developing this idea. And I was influenced by Galería de la Raza because Rene Yanez was the first one who introduced me to the Day of the Dead in San Francisco. I was the education director with the Mission Cultural Center, so I got to develop Day of the Dead there. And El Tecolote was my first love with the arts. So I have been super involved with these organizations, and to me, it's coming back home in a different way, in a vocal way, in a way that we are seen. We have an opportunity to really do things in a different way and make things happen in a different way, because we've never had this possibility before. And we're facing this possibility right now. So I'm really hoping that our fellows click, because it's gonna take that kind of magic to get our cross-pollination to happen. So I'm excited. I'm excited to work with these organizations and to allow our fellows to fully express themselves.
That's wonderful. Cross-pollination is the key operative. Dr. Ayala or Fatima, do you want to add anything else to this particular conversation? How did this come to be? And what does this mean for you? I know that you are all coming in new positions as director. So what has been the experience for you all to join? I think you're muted.
I absolutely love being part of an organization that encompasses all of the different community nonprofits in San Francisco that serve the Latinx community. And I think it's very important for the arts and cultural sector to be represented among the groups, because we have more in common than we do not. So this fellowship is really going to be able to support and engage all of the different groups in the community and bring them in through the arts. And so for me, this fellowship is not only an amazing opportunity for an artist to be funded to do their work, but also to be supported and encouraged to engage community and uplift community through arts, through social change.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and
Fatima?
I would just add that I'm so excited for Acción Latina to, really collaborate with these other fantastic legacy organizations that have such history and such deep meaning within our community as well. Again, for us, it's that intersection of arts and media. And, I myself, as a curator as well, had the opportunity to create an installation recently looking at our archive focused on the 80s for an exhibition that Acción Latina currently has on view at SF MoMA that'll run through June of this year. And in doing that, I realized, the intersections of our organizations already, just looking back at our time capsule of, these past decades. I was running into flyers about Mission Cultural Center. I was seeing exhibitions from Galería de la Raza, as well as what was happening with Dia de los Muertos, all captured within El Tecolote's archives. So I definitely echo, the sentiment of cross-pollination. We're doing it as organizations by coming together with this initiative, and we're really excited that our fellows get that same kind of opportunity to really see those intersections across organizations, ultimately to discover how each one of our key organizations holds a piece of history, and together we all create a beautiful tapestry that we want to be able to share back with our community.
Thank you. I mean, I want to just add that arriving here was a challenge because arts was not being seen as a priority to invest in. And I'm really, really excited to now have a director who is also an art practitioner and that understands it's in their DNA why art matters and how it's been a part of this history. So I do want to call that there is a container that was built and be appreciative of that. But I have to call out also that it really took these organizations building the leadership of these organizations and voice to come together and allowing us to say, this is what we need, and to be a little vulnerable about where our organizations were. And so for us, we understand that our institution and places matter. That's absolutely, of course, important, our brick and mortar. But what's really more important that feeds the soul of these places, if we didn't have the soul of the artist, the visionary artist, we would just be shells. So I think this is really an amazing opportunity to start building the next generation intentional around an art practice, and to be able to build a cohort of artists that continue on that legacy of the mission, class of, like, we're pushing the next, cohort of art practitioners. So it's really exciting. I just have to say it's really, really, really exciting. We didn't know what was going to stick. We threw out a lot of ideas, and all of it was about how do we invest in artists in an equitable way. We need to create jobs for artists, and we will continue to advocate for more support. And I think that this is a model that we are seeing also come up in different spaces across the state. And yet no one was doing it for the Mission District or for our local Latinx artists. So I'm really proud of how we've arrived here, how it's been very informed by all minds that are in this screen, and how we've grown with each other just in this last year of getting this done. So kudos to you all. Kudos to those that have stuck through the advocacy process at City Hall, that were up until 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, making it happen. So making sure that artists were going to be taken care of. And it's a small number right now, but watch out for the power of women in a table, as they say at CLF. I'm going to quote that because that's what happens. So let's move into the job descriptions and applications, the nitty gritty for those that are watching. What are we looking for in a strong fellow? What is the application asking for? And what is the selection process? If I'm going to start with Rosa. We're going to share your job application, and so if you can tell us what makes a strong fellow candidate.
I'd say an open mind for discovery, a person who knows they don't know it all, a person who is ready to investigate. You need to be very open-minded as an artist, and you need to learn to investigate the right populations to inform you. And you also need to look at the greater population, because the Latinx community does not exist in a silo. And we forget that, because I see a lot of organizations focusing so narrowly that they become very ethnocentric. And we don't live in an ethnocentric society. We lived in a very multidisciplinary, multicultural, artistic environment. And we need to learn to keep our power and share it equitably, share it freely, listen to everybody. I really believe that that this engagement plan that an artist develops for the community has to have that kind of openness, because we will not survive. We need everybody to survive in this world. The world has become a village, and therefore we have to see that work that the artist creates in this community is going to go to the world, because our events are being live streamed to the world. We are inviting the world community into our space, and we need their support. Just like I would like to support the women in the Middle East who are dealing with the moral police. I want to support them. I want to have direct access to them. I think we should. I think we can. I think we're at a time and a period when we can make that happen. And
Sounds
so,
like
yes,
then it's innovative and thinking outside of the box.
absolutely,
You really want
absolutely.
somebody that's going to be, what's a good word to describe? Take a risk. You want somebody that will take a risk.
Huge
right?
risk takers.
Right.
Huge. I want someone that is not afraid to use their talent for the good of all, but especially uplifting themselves and our community. But I just want to say that It doesn't have to be all red, green, and white, or whatever your flag is, because even in this little collection of people, we all come from different countries that are from different cultures and taste in food and music and all of that. We are multicultural, and I don't want to exclude anybody. I don't want
Great.
to exclude anybody, because it's going to take everybody. In order to cross-pollinate our audiences, we have to reach out to those people that are not present in our groups.
Makes sense. Thank you, Rosa. And you can see on the screen right now what the requirement for Marigold's application. It's a resume, no, max 2 pages, an artist statement, max 1 page, a cover letter that includes the artist's vision for the fellowship, inspiration for community and cultural work, and a detailed list of workspace needs, 1 page max. A sample abstract for previous projects, 1 page max, and work samples. Submit a PDF that includes a combination of at least 5 image, video links, and other references of the artist's previous work, single file. Thank you, Rosa. Can we hear from Dr. Ayala? Tell us about, what makes a strong fellowship candidate?
A strong fellowship candidate for Mission Cultural Center at Misión Gráfica is someone who has a strong portfolio that reflects art for social change and community engagement. Someone who is experienced and knowledgeable in printmaking. This is not a position for someone who is going to be trained in printmaking. The person that comes in here needs to have either knowledge, experience in printmaking, textile design, fine art, visual art, or other related discipline. They need to be knowledgeable in the correct and safe use of tools, materials, and equipment of printmaking and workshop studio. So that is imperative. But most importantly, it's someone who is hopefully bilingual, who is seeking to deepen their knowledge and experience around community issues and how to reflect that in the artistic work that they produce and in the workshops that engage community. So that's what we're looking for. Someone who, it could be emergent or established. I think at this point, it's important to uplift our artists and provide sufficient time for our artists to create their work. We have a beautiful gallery. We have amazing artists that come through here. So the artists will have an opportunity to exhibit at Mission Cultural Center, but most important, and create their work in our studio. But it's also important to be part of our team. Mission Cultural Center has a cross-functional team, and anyone that shows up here needs to show up ready to engage community, ready to collaborate, ready to bring people in and welcome our community into the center. So I am looking for a team player.
Great. Thank you so much. I really, really have to say, I said this when we were developing the job descriptions, that your criteria around the human connection is just so valuable, Martina. Like it just, I think all of us can echo that is the number one. Like you have to be able to welcome people to our spaces and con dignidad, right? And so that's really, really important. So thank you for sharing that. And we are going to probably outline your application is a little different, where you're looking for a cover letter on how the fellowship is beneficial for the artistic project. You're giving 3 pages max. The abstract of the project, 400 words. And for visual media, new media artists, project plan, which describes a concrete project that can be developed while in residence, identifying any technical support needed, maximum 1,500 words, not counting references, possible additional video material. Resume, max 4 pages, including a list of published works and or portfolio. The selection committee might request samples at a later stage. So that's good to know for those that are applying to Mission Cultural Center. It seems like visual portfolio is going to be important. So, and you've outlined that in your case, the candidate will be informed by February 23rd, 2023. Great.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Moving on to Fatima and Acción Latina. Share with us what makes a strong fellow for you, and what is it that you're looking for?
Yeah, we're really excited to welcome also, either emerging or established Latinx artists. More than anything, I want to make sure it's somebody who is open to, intergenerational dialogue. As I was sharing, as we're looking through history and we're looking at El Tecolote's archive, we're engaging with a history that perhaps that artist lived through or is learning about for the first time. And is looking at how that history has brought us to the present day, to this current moment where their artwork is being showcased. So I want to ensure that it's somebody who really does value connections with our community elders. We have, this is an open space. We have elders that visit our office pretty routinely, as well as young families that come through the space. So having an openness to engage in conversation with those folks. Again, we're talking a lot about El Tecolote's digitized print archive, but we also really see, our elders as living archives who have so many stories to share, and that can also be inspirational for an artistic practice. So that's something that we certainly value. And so with that, we also would ask for somebody who is open and willing to do archival research and really look to that key source of El Tecolote's archives, particularly looking at the 90s, to inspire a new body of work for their art practice that then they get to showcase to the community. And so one thing too, I'm saying that we're open to both emerging and established. We do, however, ask that they have had already 4 years at least of community engagement practice, showcasing their art in public, particularly because the artwork will be showcased at Paseo Artístico, which, as I mentioned, is an arts walk. Sometimes we host it outdoors, indoors. It could be a mix of different scenarios, but I want to make sure that that fellow feels confident in showcasing their art in public, and that they also, feel very confident in speaking about their art with our communities. Ideally, also somebody who is bilingual and also can feel comfortable doing that in English and Spanish and any other languages that they may speak as well. Yeah, those are kind of the main key areas of what we'd be looking for, and then you'll see on there the requirements to apply.
Yeah, so I'll just read it. A resume that also has 2 references: biography of 150 words, cover letter that includes how the artist envisions developing their artistic practice at Acción Latina through the use of El Tecolote archives, and highlights their experience in engaging with the Latinx community in San Francisco. We also ask that you specify any technical or workspace needs, as our office has an open floor plan with limited separation of potential studio spaces, max 2 pages. That's a key one. So for you, it's really important to know, because that's going to be perhaps a challenge, right? So we can always provide you some space. So we'll talk about that offline. Maybe they'll be co-hosted in spaces. Abstract of the proposed artistic project to be presented at Paseo Artístico, maximum 400 words. Work sample, submit a PDF that includes a combination of at least 5 images, video links, or other reference of the artist's previous work, max 3 pages. And this position will be open until filled. Great. Our goal is, though, that we want to hire them pretty like soon and as a cohort, because the goal is also to have them have that cross-pollination, right? We want to launch it. We'll probably have a gathering of the fellows as the launch. And we want to make sure that they're building together. So that's great. Thank you so much, Acción Latina. I think, I'll finish with the Galería de la Raza fellow. I think what's really important to us, if you bring up our job description, and I want to kind of focus on really keep going further down. I want to focus on the capacity of what we're looking for an individual artist to develop their art practice 60% of the time. Like 60, there will be 900 there's a total of 1,560 hours that the job is earmarked for. of that, we really want to have somebody to dedicate at least 936 hours to their development of their practice, and that they are also part, again, interested in understanding the work that we've been doing is looking at the intersections of policy and advocacy, being able to be a really good listener, not being part of running a meeting, not being like, they need to listen to all the different intersectors, like nonprofits that work together, and try to create a project that responds to these issues, solutions, visions, reimagining. And then for us, it's not as important that they have to have experience in actual production of presenting their work. For us, we will provide training. That is part of that hands-on training that we will give as a team, is that any artist that walks in through the door, you learn how to, what is it going to need to develop a curatorial statement? How do you get it developed? How do you technical, not just the technical, but the production and printing, installation. We will provide our staff support to work with the individuals so they can get those skills. But what we really are looking for really is somebody that has a strong practice in whatever medium they are, exploring, and that it intersects with that piece, the advocacy and policy. I will echo everything that's been said. I think that one of the values we hold very dear at Galeria is, if your grandmother does not understand it, you've got it all wrong. So it's really important that it could call everyone in, your grandma, the next generation, the little ones. Like, it has to be really grounded in a way that it's in community, practice. And then the other piece is treating everyone with dignity and respect. That is really important to us. Also, understanding that as an institution, what our values are, alignment with our values. We are a feminist space. I'm going to say it again. We will not have a lot of patience to have somebody that's going to come into the space and won't understand what that means and translates. So it's really important that we have somebody that meshes with their values really well. And if I left anything out, my team is going to type it on the screen and then I'll read it out. But that is the goal. We want to hire, we're closing the application February 17th, I believe. And our goal is to really have the panelists, like the way we will be reviewing our proposals is internal through the team. And then we are going to invite actually Lucia, the SFL-PIC program director, to see if they can also be a part of the review. So we have an external reviewer that is connected to how these monies came about. So that's my official ask, Lucia, if you're on screen, if you would be interested in being part of the review, the panelists to review our applications. So that's the job. There's a specific email that we're requesting our submission to, is jobs.galeria@gmail.com. It is very clear, straight to the point: cover letter, abstract, biography, resume, portfolio work samples. And I'm trying to really also explore, like, these are the traditional ways, but I'm really trying to explore, and I might add that in later, like, people can do a video storytelling of, too, would be really interesting. But maybe I'm digressing. We'll continue to explore that. So thank you. I just want to say thank you. This is the wrap sort of the information that we wanted to share. The job descriptions will be continued to be promoted through our social media channels, our websites. You can apply, to all four if your project fits. We do have some questions that we want to kind of cover, and if our tech team can actually put the questions on the side, that would be great. Let's see. Oh, and we have comments of people watching. So Frisco 415, very informative, amazed. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I'm glad that this is helpful for you in the process, and we hope to see your application. So Frisco is, if I'm not mistaken, is a very talented textile artist that does a lot of work with other nonprofits as well, and has a patch company on their own. Amazing, good hearted and hard worker, and just doing some great work. Thank you so, Frisco. Okay, the question is, can I apply and be considered if you work in San Francisco but live outside of the city? Excellent question. We are prioritizing artists that live in San Francisco, number one. I think that that is the priority and restriction based on where our money is coming from and who it is supposed to serve. So we are prioritizing people that live in San Francisco. The first tier is that. Another question. Let's see. Can I apply to all host organization or just one? I mean, I say apply. Apply to all four. You don't lose anything. Who knows? Maybe we two of us will want to bring you on board. And like I say apply. As we were talking about it, the imagination is open. The imagination is open. So it really is where the right fit lands. If I would encourage you to apply. Your job is to apply to all four. It is our job to make, find the right fit. So don't eliminate your opportunities. Apply, I say. What would you guys say?
Apply.
Right? Apply.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, next question. When are we notified if we were selected for the fellowship? Good question. And we should update our, we probably, side note, we should probably do a follow-up promotion around when we will hear. I saw that Mission Cultural Center said February 23rd, 2023. Can you confirm that?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. Rosa, Marigold Project, when do you think they will make their decision?
By the end of the month.
By the end of the month. Wonderful. Fatima.
Same.
End of the month.
Yes.
Okay, Galeria, end of the month. It sounds like we want to have a start date of March, either 1st or 15th, because it has to land within the payrolls, but we want these to start. So it is moving really fast. So please apply. And apply directly to each organization. You will hear their response from them. But yeah. Any other questions that came up? Is this fellowship intended to be a full-time? Is it manageable if you already have a part-time, full-time job? This is a 30-hour per week job. It's considered a 0.75 FTE. So as you saw in the job descriptions, we really do need somebody that is going to come in and work 936 hours in developing their practice. We need 312 hours in community work, and then 312 hours in the production and presentation of the final project. So it is a almost full-time job. I don't know that it's manageable, given that we don't know what the proposal is and how it's going to fit with our schedules. We all work very different hours, mostly evenings and weekends, because since we're event producing institutions. So that's the challenge. I would say it's going to be really difficult. As with the full-time job, this is not the right fit for you. Then the question that we have following up is, will the work hours be, I think they were trying to say flexible? That is going to be something that has to be determined between the individual and the host organization. Again, for example, Galeria works right now strictly Monday through Friday. And we have flex hours. But we're moving into weekend now, right? Now that we're coming back in production, event production. So that's our, kind of schedule. Afternoons, noon to like 7, and then weekends. I would like to hear from other folks' schedules. Like, what does a work week at your organization look like?
At Mission Cultural Center, we're open 6 days a week, Tuesday through Sunday. And we are open during the week from 1 to 9:30 p.m. and Saturdays and Sundays 10 to 6. So those would be the hours that we would need to operate in within that time frame.
Fatima? Acción Latina?
Yeah, at Acción Latina, our work hours are Monday through Friday, and typically 9 through 5, although we can have some flexibility on that. And then, of course, evening events when we are hosting gallery exhibitions and paseo artístico or other cultural events that happen on weekends.
We are,
Rosa.
yeah, we are similar to Fatima's work schedule. We do work on weekends when needed, as needed, because like you said, we're an artist organization, and sometimes we work on the weekends.
We have flexibility in that our studio, if you know the part where the artist creates their studio work, they could work during the day and use the studio during the day for their own production. But the evenings and afternoons, that's community engagement. And that's when we need you present.
And one other thing I have to mention is that we are deeply involved in ceremony and spirituality and in the topic of death and how we manage these topics with age groups from toddlers to, plus. So you have to be comfortable talking about those topics: ceremony, spirituality, and death.
Thank you for adding that, Rosa. That is extremely important. We have more questions coming up. The question is, are all fellowships 12 months? They are earmarked for 12 months. How the project plays out, the final presentation and the wrap up is going to be determined by each project and each organization, but it is a 12-month window of 1,560 hours, which breaks up to be 30 hours per week. So this is a temporary placement. We have another question coming up. Do undocumented folks with or without DACA qualify to apply for this fellowship? I think this is an answer that we should also have each organization respond. From Galeria's perspective, if you have DACA, you should apply. If you do not have DACA, I would highly encourage you to still apply, but make that information available to us in your cover letter, as we can figure out through other nonprofits how to work around this issue. There is other ways. So I do not want to discourage folks that are undocumented. I really want to encourage folks that are undocumented to apply. That's Galeria. Every organization has a different HR and module that they can do. So I'll let everyone else in the room also respond to that.
We will figure it out. If you're the right person, we will figure it out for you. Definitely. Apply.
I would say apply. We have to figure that part out. We do work with children. We do have to have fingerprinting, live scanning, mandated, child abuse reporting. All of those are requirements of the job, and we do have to be in compliance. So we have to figure things out. If but we do want you to state that in your application, so that we know what we are, what the challenges would be and how we would have to address them. If you are the right candidate, we would like to work with you and see how we can make it happen.
That's a great question. Fatima, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I agree that we encourage all candidates to apply and would really appreciate the indication of whether that person has DACA or not, because we also would be willing to figure it out, but that will certainly help us with our planning.
And we will start looking it up. I think that question is raising a need, and we are absolutely, it's not a discouragement to apply. We will start looking into that. We have another question about what is the timeline for onboarding and wrapping up the fellowship, and what does the hours that the fellow can work? Is it different for each org? So I think we've covered this, but we'll reiterate it. The onboarding is going to be looking like first 2 weeks of March. It's a 1 year, 12 months in total fellowship, which means that the fellowship would be ending in February of 2024. It's the same for all organizations. It's a 1-year fellowship, and it's 30 hours per week at every organization. It's the same. The fellowship is in terms of salary, hours is the same. It just depend the product of your project, proposed project, is what can be different, and it's open. So and I think that was the last question. So if you do have any other questions, we encourage you to reach out to each of the organizations through their social media, through their Facebook, through their email. Email the organizations at where you're submitting your resume. If you have more questions, each organization will be following up with their candidates. But we encourage you to apply, apply, apply. And what I'll move into now, we wanted, this is us doing the work. We're making sure that, we're taking public dollars and investing it in our community and making sure that our artists are taken care of. But we also want to really thank our funder for this initiative, that without them, we would not be here. And I want to really give a shout out to our District 9 Supervisor Hillary Ronan, because this was through advocacy of us saying we need jobs. Jobs are so important. It's a need, and she championed this initiative. Lots of conversation. I think that we've always had a champion in her leadership, supporting the arts and culture, understanding how critical it is. So we want to definitely give a shout out to our district supervisor, Hillary Ronan, her team, for really supporting us and carrying us through. And I also want to give a shout out to the San Francisco Arts Commission, who is administrating the official, grantor of the advocacy that was done. It's the dollars are in their department, and we've been working with a great team there. Trying to get all the pieces lined up, being patient as we got all the us together and coordinated. I want to really give a shout out to Molly, for our program officer, for their support in this process. And also, I think that as we look to the future, we wanted to come back and bring in Lucia, because we are entering that time right now of once again doing advocacy on the needs, on the recovery of our community. And so I want to open the space for Lucia to maybe share with us how individuals can support our advocacy efforts in this coming session. We know that we are in a deficit. We know we're in very dire times, that things are getting cut back and forth, but we have a vision. And I'd like to see if Lucia can share that vision around our advocacy, and also tell people how they can get involved and support us, and what does it mean to show up and when to show up. So Lucia, can you cover a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I think, as we heard, it is very crucial to join your voice and your talent to the advocacy of resources, specifically for the arts sectors. So SFLPEC is embarking now in another budget cycle. If you know a little bit about how the city works, is that the city budget gets decided during this time from now all the way till June. And there's a process where it goes through the departments, mayor, and then the supervisors. And we are engaging in the process of advocacy to make sure that while there's going to be cuts, that the investment to the Latino community still remains equitable. And we are absolutely standing strong in having no cuts towards any services to our community. So if you want to participate and get to know how you can follow this process, you can find us on Facebook, well, as the San Francisco Latino Parity and Equity Coalition, or SFLPEC, SFLPEC, or you can find us on Instagram, SFLPEC. SFLPIC. And when it's time for advocacy, what we do is we have either a rally or a press conference. We have a march. So there's usually kind of an opportunity for you to come, see a little bit of what we're advocating for, and also participate and raise your voice. So thank you for this opportunity, and we're so excited that to see all of that advocacy coming to fruition, having something tangible. And I think this fellowship is proof that advocacy works.
Eso, that's so true, so true. Eso es cierto. En la unión está la fuerza, como dice el dicho. Again, we want to really thank the champions that came through to support this initiative. District Supervisor Hillary Ronan, D9 Supervisor, the Arts Commission. And I'm also going to do a pitch for funders that might be watching this and seeing what we're up to. Make a radical investment. Invest in working artists. Know that we have the solutions. We need your investment and match. Be imaginatory and like invest. We need more investment to make sure that our next generation of the creative sector is cared for, because this is beyond just a salary. Our goal is to be able to take care of artists. We have the history over and over, how many elders that have given their life to do this work in community have not been cared for, have no health care, had to teach in community colleges, have not been given the proper pay, the proper care. And we see it over and over. This is a challenge. And this is where you can turn and have like a huge impact in our community, is by investing in a radical new idea and knowing that we have the answers and allowing us to be, foster this and know that, we'll make it happen. So thank you for those that have funded this. And we encourage you to reach out to us and fund more of this initiative. My sort of last thank yous is also to the SFLPIC membership, because it also came through their support. Every member organization understood the critical need and understood that it was together in La Unión that we were going to be able to propose this and to support it. So thank you to all of our sister organizations that were out there advocating. Again, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, for 2 years in a row, we've been pushing and pushing. Thank you so much for your support. And last but not least, I also want to thank my Galeria de la Raza team for hosting and putting together the live stream and making us all come together, and just knowing also how important this is and jumping on board and saying, this is who we are. This is how we take care of our artists, of our community. And we're going to, do the work hand in hand with our sister organizations. So I think we've, if there's any other closing remarks, we can end this live stream, and we can't wait to see who applies.
Apply, don't delay.
Yes, apply.
We're ready. We're ready to receive those applications. We're ready to
don't leave it for mañana time. Today.
Ahora.
Exacto. So thank you all. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Lucia. We're going to give you a lot of work now that you're the director. Hold on. But we're here and we're going to make it happen. So
looking forward to reviewing those applications.
Thank you, Henry Rivera and Yvette Diaz from Galeria team. Thank you. Nos vemos.